The yellow brick road is not what you think. We culturally treat it like it is a point that's going to get us from A to B, and that B is exactly what we expect, the answer and the goal. But as Dorothy found out in The Wizard of Oz, and as Bernie Taupin found out in life, whether you follow or say goodbye to the yellow brick road, the journey is the point, not the destination. Let me explain. When we say follow the yellow brick road, we are invoking a cultural blueprint. You take the expected steps, you reach the Emerald City, you get the answer that sends you home eventually. It's clean and linear and reassuring, but that is an enticement and it is not the reality. Anyone who has tried to walk a straight route towards a goal knows the truth. As Robert Burns says, the best laid plans of mice and men oft go awry. Or Oliver Burkeman in 4,000 Weeks puts it, all a plan is, all it could ever possibly be is a present moment statement of intent, an expression of your current thoughts about how you'd ideally like to deploy your modest influence over the future, but the future is under no obligation to comply. So let's start with how Dorothy walks the yellow brick road. Dorothy in the 1939 film is told that she will get the answer she needs if she follows the yellow brick road. She assumes this means she will get the knowledge from the wizard, but the wisdom actually comes from the friends that she meets along the way. They represent the internal aspects of her mind, heart, and soul in the form of the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. Dorothy must grow and actualize as a person in order to be able to learn these lessons. And Glinda's language is precise. She gives a warning. She says, "The sooner you get out of Oz altogether, the safer you will sleep, my dear." That is a quiet acknowledgement that the growth path down the yellow brick road is one that disrupts our sleep. It disrupts our sense of self. Growth always does. The symbolism here is clear. The Wicked Witch represents doubt and the shadow. The wizard represents the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. And Glinda says the only person who might know is the Wizard of Oz. He is very great, but very mysterious. It is a long journey from here. And Dorothy asks, how do I start for the Emerald City? And Glinda answers, it is best to start at the beginning, and all you have to do is follow the yellow brick road. She is a sage in this moment, being purposely ambiguous because she cannot tell Dorothy how to walk the path. From one angle, Glinda looks like a deceiver because she does know how Dorothy can get home. But from another angle, she never lies. At the end, she tells Dorothy, you always had the power to go home anytime. And she's right. Dorothy had the power, but she did not yet have the wisdom. Those are two very different things. Dorothy has to grow up on the road. She cannot return to Kansas as the same girl who ran away from home. Glinda could have sent her back instantly, but she doesn't, because the journey is what sends her home, not the ruby slippers. And in many ways, if we recognize that this 1939 film is incredibly deep in its spiritual meaning, we can understand why Dark Side of the Moon or Dark Side of the Rainbow, in which you play Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz, works. In my controversial interpretation of Dark Side of the Moon, each of those aspects represents a different part of shadow. And Dorothy has to grow up and face those aspects of shadow in order to move on. So now let's jump to Bernie Taupin and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. When he wrote those lyrics, Bernie was young, overwhelmed with sudden fame, and he wanted out. He said, the lyrics to the title track do say that I want to leave Oz and get back to the farm. I don't mind getting out there and doing what everybody else was doing, but I always wanted to have an escape hatch. He wanted an out. He wanted Kansas without walking the road. And in 2020, he added, I don't believe I was ever turning my back on success or saying I didn't want it. I think I was hoping there was a happy medium, a way to exist successfully in a more tranquil setting. My only naivety was believing I could do it that early on. I had to travel a long road and visit the school of hard knocks before I could come close to achieving that goal. He was trying to escape the path before it taught him what it actually needed to teach him. What is the real meaning of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road? It is not goodbye to fame. It is goodbye to the illusion that I can avoid the part of life that grows me. It's the commitment, not to the goal, though it looks like that on the surface, but to the path itself and to how that path shapes you. In this song, we can hear the young version of Bernie who is idealistic and thinks he can skip the journey and get to the destination. But the reality is we now know Bernie Taupin's name. He didn't escape fame. But sometimes you must face the trials of a life lived in resistance in order to come out on the other side whole, integrated. We all picture a life outcome, some version of success or peace or stability, and we can assume we can leapfrog the messy part. We assume that we can skip the yellow brick road and go straight to the ruby slippers, but there is always an initiation path that we must walk down, and this is the work of the eternal child, whether that child is Dorothy or Bernie or Peter Pan. Dorothy couldn't skip her growth, Bernie couldn't skip his. We can't skip ours. Because the yellow brick road isn't the path to the outcome, it is the crucible that makes the outcome possible. It is the maturation of the eternal child into someone who can hold a real life. And when we listen to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, we're not hearing a man quitting, we're hearing a man confronting the truth that we all face. You don't get to go home until you become the person who can recognize what home actually is. And that only happens by walking the road. I'm Kristina Wiltsee. This is Songs and Movies from Beyond. Please like and follow and interact to help our channel.